Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Teen Book Babble. I'm Randy, and today I'm going to get us started off by talking about Who the F Are You by Huda Fahmy. This is a graphic novel. It is a fictionalized memoir, which means that some parts of the story are based on the author's life, and some parts are not. There is a lot of humor in this one. It came out last year, and I was really excited when I was doing some research. I did see that there will be a sequel, but it won't be released until 2023. So I'm kind of really anticipating reading the next book in the series. So let me tell you a little bit about this story. So in the book, Huda F and her family have just moved to Dearborn, Michigan, where there is a large Muslim community. She quickly discovers that the things that set her apart, mainly her faith and her hijab, are much more commonplace in her new home and in her new high school. So Huda spends much of the graphic novel trying to figure out who she is, what her likes and dislikes are, and where she fits in. Through it all, she has her family, faith, and maybe some new friends that will help her discover who she really is. This book is really funny. I appreciate all of the characters, particularly Huda and her mother. I enjoy their interactions, as well as, her interactions with her sisters and the new people she meets at her high school. They all have this sort of witty, wicked sense of humor that I really enjoy. Huda gets herself in a lot of absurd situations that are sort of laugh out loud funny, and the way that she responds to them, whether in her head or out loud, really had me giggling at several points throughout the book. Some of the other things that I found important or really resonated me in this graphic novel was the importance of family and faith and community. So Huda is trying to figure out who she is and how she fits in to the world in her high school at large. And all of these things, family, faith, and community, really provide a support system that allows her to go on this journey. The journey itself, that's important as well. She's trying to figure out who she is, what she likes, what she dislikes, and that's really important, especially for teenagers. As you go through school, as you go through life, you're trying to figure out how you fit into the world. Huda herself also is trying to figure out how to stand up for what she believes in, despite her own insecurities and what everyone else is telling her, what the world is telling her, that kind of thing. So I highly recommend this graphic novel. I would check it out. We have it here at our library in print, but we also have it as an ebook available through Cloud Library. So check it out.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Book Babble. My name is Kelsey, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Small Favors by Aaron A. Craig. Now, despite this book's sunny golden appearance, everything is not as it seems, because this book is actually a very surrealist fantasy small town horror. It definitely builds up the anticipation. So this book takes place in the small town of Amity Falls, which, as I said before, is kind of a small remote frontier town that is surrounded by dark black woods and 5 mountains all about it. And when this town was founded, its founding members had these reports and legends of these creatures that lived in the woods outside the town. So they created sort of this ring of bells that are really just sort of any junk that chimes and rattles together to make a sound to protect the town. It's been a long time since this town was founded, so by the point our story takes place, most people have kind of assumed that this talk of monsters in the woods was, a metaphor or just folk tales to keep people from wandering off and getting lost. That is until one of the groups that was supposed to head out to the city to get provisions for the town for winter ends up being brutally attacked by something with large claws that are spaced so far apart, and it looks bigger than any wolf or bear. And after a town vote, they decide that instead of sending another party into the woods to go to the city and get provisions, they've decided to try and stick it out throughout the winter until spring comes without it. Between the lower amount of supplies, the grudges that have been festering in this town for years, the newcomers who are becoming scapegoated, and weird deformed animals being found outside and even inside the town, it's starting to become difficult, blurring the line to see who is the real monsters. Are there monsters in the wood, or is it really the monsters in the town that people should be worried about? This book is a little bit like slower at times, but it's a very steady, measured pace that ramps up your anticipation. So it's not like a bunch of like quick jump scares. It really is very sinister and suspenseful, but also very atmospheric and like weirdly beautiful in its lyrical like writing style. So the cover actually does sort of fit it in that way. There's a lot of very beautiful imagery and sort of the rot underneath. One of the things I liked too, that is just kind of a nerdy me thing, is that the main family that you're following, the family of the main character, actually have an apiary, which means they are beekeepers. So hence the sort of bee motifs on the cover. And there also is a lot of metaphors having to do with the beehives being used throughout it. The folklore that they use as well is really cool. I'm not going to get into too much of that because I don't want to spoiler you, because it is a absolutely wonderful read. I'm definitely going to be picking up a copy to own. But you can come and pick up and borrow this copy here in the Vortex and then let me know what you think of it.
Hi everybody, Amber here. So this month I'm going to talk about The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco. This was a super interesting read, honestly. Like, I read it a while ago, but it came out in 2017. It is a series. There's 3 books in total, and we have it available in like book format, ebook, or e-audiobook. So The Bone Witch is about, the main character is a girl named T, and the world is completely like a fantasy. You have no idea truly like when it necessarily takes place because it's a completely like fictional world. So there's really not quite any way of knowing if it's meant to be like a far future dystopian or like a former like past telling kind of thing, but it doesn't really matter. Like because the world that Rin Chupeco built in this book, very interesting, like just super interesting to say the least. So T, the main character, is, she's your poor, typical kind of like village girl, lives with her like a big family, in this little small village. And the entire world is sort of a mixture of like East Asian and West Asian cultures, and the author kind of like smushed them together a little bit. But she did it, I gotta say, like, she did it very well. She really did. So everyone in this world, every person is born with something called a heart glass. So the heart glasses are very much like little hourglasses that you are literally, every child is just born with this thing. Like it appears on their body. They're born with it. And the heart glass essentially is like an outward representation of your soul. So as you get older, the heart glass will settle when you come of age into like one color that sort of tells you like who you are, I guess, as a person. So there's different kinds of like heart glass colors that, adults will have their colors settled on. And as you're growing up, and even when you're older, the heart glasses also change color to reflect emotion. So like they can tell when, you're telling a lie, like it turns green or something like that. And so there's different classifications of like the major colors. So if your heart glass, everyone wears it as just like a necklace. If your heart glass is like a silvery color, that means that you have magical abilities and you can become what's called an Asha. And Asha is like someone who is like essentially a magical warrior geisha. Like I said, like a combination of East and West Asian cultures. So it's quite literally, if you took geisha, or if you're fans of like Avatar: Last Airbender, it's pretty much like the Kyoshi warriors. But also they have magic powers essentially. Like they can also bend, and they're super good at fighting.
So these Asha, essentially, they go to like these, they all go to different schools. There's different ones like all over the world. Where T is, she goes to a specific one in her area. So the book starts out, as T doesn't know, her sisters are, their heart glasses are very pretty. Like they're gifts. Like one of her sisters is like really good with like nature, and the other one, is really good with telling people like who they're gonna fall in love with, and so those types of gifts. So T very much expects something similar along the lines of her sister or sisters, but when she comes of age and Asha comes to every village, every place where people live, the Asha will travel to those places and they'll take in the new children, and like pretty much record all of the heart glass colors. And okay, you have like a silver heart glass, so you need to come to the magic school, like that sort of thing. They'll collect the special ones. So T does indeed have magic in her, but she's also grieving because she had just lost her brother Fox. They were very close, and he died in the war. And so when they brought his body home from the war, she was completely distraught, and unbeknownst to her, T is a bone witch. And so she accidentally brings Fox back to life. She's essentially a necromancer. So she has these necromancing abilities, among with like a huge plethora of other powers that come up later on. And so she kind of is at first a little terrified because bone witches are they're respected, but they're also feared, like massively feared, because, they deal so closely with death and things like that. And so T is thrown into this world of like magical Asha, and she gets taken, of course, to like this magical school to go train, in like magical arts, martial arts, spycraft, reconnaissance, etc., and is also learning how, to control her own sort of bone witch powers as well, which is like a completely separate classification. So she gets she gets to take Fox with her because when she brings him back to life, they are connected thereafter. So they don't really have a choice, like, until she can figure out how to keep him alive while also giving themselves some space. They are pretty much like kind of attached to each other. And so it's this huge thing that kind of unfolds. And of course, there's like tons of intrigue and like mystery and murder. And yes, there is a little bit of romance, but it's not really until like the second and third book. And the narration is super interesting too, because you get T's perspective in the present, and then you go back and forth between chapters to this other character who you don't really know who she is, but it's set in the future of the book. And you go back and forth between these two narratives. And so you have to uncover this mystery as you sort of go along in each book. But yeah, all three books were super good. Like I said, super interesting world creation and just a really interesting mix of like cultures and lore and things like that. And so I really enjoyed all three books, honestly. I thought they were really good. Just the whole concept of heart glasses was super fascinating. And, it does go into a lot of that. So, like, the author put a lot of, like, history into it. So, props for that. But, yeah, so if you're interested, by all means, check out The Bone Witch by Reen Chupecco. Bye.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want more recommendations, come stop by the Vortex, talk to some of our staff. We're happy to tell you about some of our most recent reads. You can also visit our website at fountaindale.org/teenreads to view some of the book lists we've created just for you. We'll see you next time.